Hello everyone, this is M. Allen West at FlashCadabra.com, and today I am going to take a look at Blender 2.79 and the current build of 2.8, which is under development. And a lot of these features may change, but the idea is to get you familiar with the current direction that they are going with Blender, and some of these may make it to the final release. We'll just have to wait and see. So a lot of people are already covering Eevee. It's going to bring a lot to Blender, and it's very, very cool. But I'm not going to cover this because there are so many videos online about it that you can just look on YouTube and find it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new scene. And this is what the user interface looks like when you first open it up. You can click and drag this side over here and it will change your icons, and it can make it where you'll have just icon buttons over here with images, or if you drag it out you can see the text associated with the image. It also has a global menu, which I'm not really a big fan of, but I can't say too much about it. Basically, if you have a brush selected in sculpt mode, this will apply to whatever brush you currently have selected, so it'll change as you click through them. One of the things that I covered in a previous video was the issue with appending brushes, which basically if you go into your brush sets and you append a large group of brushes and press enter on your keyboard, you have a list of icons which all look exactly the same and you can't tell brushes apart. Another issue that is current in this build is that you have to hold down the left mouse button and drag. So if you have thousands of brushes or hundreds of brushes that you have to drag through, it might get a little disorienting to try to do that. But there's no saying whether or not this will make it to the final build, but in its current state, it's a little bit hectic. So we're going to go ahead and open up a new file, reload this, and look at the other version of Blender, which was the 2.79. And you can see that I don't know exactly where they've moved the draw tool, but in 2.8 I haven't been able to find it yet, and if anybody could tell me where they've moved it to or if it's even been added back in, I'd appreciate it. I actually use the draw tool a lot. One of the reasons that I use the draw tool is because there is actually an add-on which is not enabled by default, which is called the loop tool, which it's a very, very handy tool to use. So if you go up into user preferences in 2.79, my bad, and you go into add-ons and you type in loop, you can see that there's a mesh loop tools. You check that box and then click save user settings and then exit out, and it'll add a loop tool kit down here at the bottom. And I believe that it's G-Sketch is the one that relies on the pencil tool, the draw tool. But there's a lot of cool tools that are available in loop tools, which I'm not sure why it's not enabled by default. I actually think that it's a very powerful add-on. So if you have Blender installed right now, I would suggest that you install this as well, because or add this add-on, because it's very useful. I'm not going to cover it in this video. Maybe I might make another video showing some of the features of it. So anyhow, if you go back into Blender 2.8, one of the things that I've noticed is, of course, I said I was going to cover some of the features that most people wouldn't look into in their videos. For example, if you actually write Python script in Blender, a lot of people will just drag down this menu up here at the top. And if you move an object on the screen, for example, or if you select the materials and change the color, it'll actually generate the script above here that you can add to your own Python script to make your own customized buttons a lot easier. But in the current version of 2.8, you have this plus icon that you have to hit, and then you could go into scripting, and there is no info tab or info window, so you actually have to drag open a new window and click this little icon down at the bottom and change it into info, and then you'll have this available, which I'm not sure why they didn't split the screen down at the bottom, but if they're going to do it, they might do it in the next release, who knows. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new project here, reload it again so we can get back to the defaults, and I'll do the same with this one. So anyhow, there's a lot of stuff that I'm sort of getting used to. For example, whenever you change over your materials to different things, like if you want it to show up in the actual viewport over here, you have to actually either change it to object material. If you want the material to show up, you'll actually have to click this little icon down here at the bottom. Or you can change it into flat lighting. There's all different kinds of little settings and stuff down here at the bottom that are not on the other release of Blender. Like for example, on this one, if you wanted to change it into rendered mode, you'd click this button over here, or material mode. This one, there's actually, doesn't seem to be, yeah, there it is. There's the rendered tab. So it's not too much different, it's a little bit different. And as you probably go through here, you'll start to notice that this area down here is gone. And this is the layers. I actually use the layers a lot, especially since I have a Razer mouse. I have number keys on the side of my mouse, and if I hit like number 2, 3, any of the numbers on the side of my mouse, it'll actually change through these down here at the bottom. So I could have a cube on one layer, and then I could have a sphere on another layer, and I could change through all these, which I'm not sure why this is bugging out on me. It might be because I have two different versions of Blender open. But anyhow, point being is you can have multiple objects on here, and you could work on different objects in different areas. For example, I was working on a motorcycle model, and I would actually divide up the parts of the motorcycle on different layers and work on them separately. In the current version of 2.8, they are adding something called collections. I'm not really sure exactly how that's going to work because it doesn't seem to be completely finished yet, and it keeps on changing, so we'll just have to wait and see the direction that they're going. But I thought that the layers area was extremely handy to use, and I used it all the time. So it's sad to see it go. Another thing that they've removed is they've removed the game engine. So on this version of Blender, you can see that there's different types of renderers. Like there's the clay renderer where you have matte caps available, matte caps. There's Workbench, which I'm not sure what that is yet, and there's a Cycles, which is your Cycles renderer where you use the node editor. And on this version of Blender, which is the 2.79, if you scroll or drag up this window here and change this over to, for example, the logic editor, you can actually create a game inside of this, and this has been removed in the current version of 2.8. So